Well, it was a bit of an unusual outcome. South Carolina's Democratic Senate primary race rendered 3 candidates, all with a third of the vote. Well, the 2 victors that managed to gain the majority of those votes will face off in a runoff election on Tuesday, June 28th. Let's welcome one of the 2 candidates, Representative Krystle Matthews, who currently represents State House District 117, covering Berkeley and Charleston counties. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. So we're looking at early voting now, taking place through tomorrow, but people head to the ballot box on Tuesday. So let's first talk about what you think, what stands you out over your opponent, Catherine Fleming Bruce.
So my experience in the State House is definitely something that I get to bring to the table as opposed to my opponent. That negotiating stage, that learning how to maneuver, what I call the art of the dance, right? Some of it is relationship, some of it is technical, and understanding that balance is something I get to bring to the table.
So far, as a representative, you were elected in 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've been a state representative now for a few years. What have been some of your best moments?
Some of the best moments I had was seeing the hate crimes bill pass the House. Now we know it didn't pass the Senate, but seeing it pass the House was a true bipartisan effort. And that was a very proud moment for me, as well as being able to help adoptees who are older, 50, 60, 70, more the seasoned individuals, be able to get their original birth certificates. They didn't have an avenue to do that, and my bill actually passed to help them do that.
And what would you say to voters, though, because we've been hearing this term a lot lately, the big red wave, because a lot of people are not happy with the way things are currently going in the Capitol and the White House and so forth. And if you should secure this vote, you'll be going up against Republican Senator incumbent Tim Scott. So in what way would you say that you would improve that seat? What are some of the policies that you feel most passionate about?
So I'm passionate about a few things. Economic stability is one of them, right? Making sure that we have a balance of economic policies. When we talk about, one of the big trigger words is socialism and capitalism. Well, there's not one country that lives off of either. It takes a delicate balance of both in order to make any economy work, right? Infrastructure, not just roads and bridges, but access to broadband, clean water. Those are, healthcare, not having to travel an hour into a hospital. Those are not amenities. Those are necessities. People should not have to beg for those things. And also restoring our commitment to quality education, quality public education is something that we have to do, and we have to fix this college debt problem that we have for our future generations so that they can thrive.
Of course, a lot of Republicans are quite against that notion. One says, if you take out a student loan, well, you need to pay it back. But then at the same time, you are also not a fan of what you call rampant capitalism. So maybe you could talk a little bit about rampant capitalism, what that means exactly.
So right now, we're very heavily corporate. When the structure of our economy is very heavy on the corporate sector. And what that means is that, we give a lot of incentives and we incentivize a lot of these companies. But I'll give you a great example of something I don't really like. Double dipping is what I call it. Like companies like, let's just use Walmart as an example, they get a kickback if they have a certain number of employees that get government assistance. And so they're also not paying them a living wage, right? So it's like you pay them less, they're also getting government assistance, you also get a kickback for that. It's like double dipping on both sides, right? So we want to make sure that we're being smart. And I think that one of the things that we can also do is pull back our incentives for companies that go overseas and give those tax breaks to working families because they very much need it. That middle class sector is where I am, and I know that a lot of the things that I need are high and hard to get to.
And Senator Tim Scott, well, he's a proponent of opportunity zones and creating opportunity in a lot of these rural communities that don't have a lot of industry. And South Carolina has seemed to advance in that that way, that they've brought a lot of industry to the state in various ways, but that have provided for hundreds of thousands of families. I mean, that would by definition be considered capitalism, and then through those jobs people can pay for homes and student loans and all those things. So
well, let's deal with opportunity zones, because they didn't really benefit us here in South Carolina as much as they were. We talk about them a lot, but when you look at the actual data, they didn't even do what they were supposed to do. We can just use downtown Charleston as a great example. They still don't have a grocery store downtown in that area where they were aiming to use opportunity zones when he was down there taking pictures and pushing all of this. We have to be careful about understanding a narrative and then following through to see the result.
So if we were to take opportunity zones out of the equation and just talk about industry and capitalism in and of itself, where would you see there being a balance?
So let's
How
talk
would
about,
you strike a balance?
I strike a balance with resources, right? I think you can make money, and I'm okay with people making tons of money, right? I'm okay with heavy industry, but I don't think you can lose all the other things that come with it. Taking care of your roads, taking care of your bridges, taking care of your communities, and also making sure that environmental justice is not just segmented off from our rural communities. First thing I want to do is start looking at how to get rid of the middleman when it comes to resources that we get from the federal government. Every time, I'm in state government, so one of the things that I see is that every time that money stops, somebody siphons off a little piece of it for their own personal project or reasons, and by the time it gets where it's going, if it gets where it's going, it's never the full impact of what we thought it was. And that's something we see in the State House when we talk about, who gets to decide where the money goes, who gets to decide who gets what. If that money was designated for schools, then it should not be up for debate. That money should go straight to schools. I also want to make sure to get involved in the bipartisan gun talk that we're seeing right now. If you have two extreme factions willing to come together because they see a crisis, you should very much want to get into that discussion and play a role in helping bridge that gap.
Okay. Representative Matthews, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We're back after this.